The hospital corridors smelled like antiseptic and fear. Michelle's hands were still shaking as she pushed open the door to her mother's room, half expecting to find the shadowy figure from the photo standing over the bed with that syringe. But the room was empty except for her mother, sleeping peacefully, the rhythmic beep of the heart monitor the only sound in the darkness. Michelle collapsed into the chair beside the bed, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The 3-hour drive from the city had been a blur of panic and calculations. She'd turned off her phone after the 5th call from Tang Sang, unable to hear his voice without breaking down completely. Unable to tell him what she was about to do. Her mother stirred, eyes fluttering open. "Michelle, baby, what are you doing here? It's the middle of the night." "I just wanted to see you, Mama." Michelle took her mother's frail hand, trying to keep her voice steady. "How are you feeling?" "Better than I look, I'm sure." Her mother's smile was weak but genuine. "The new treatment is rough, but the doctors say it's working. Thanks to you and that money you sent." She squeezed Michelle's hand. "I don't know how you managed it, baby, but you saved my life." Michelle felt tears burning behind her eyes. Her mother didn't know about the contract marriage, didn't know about Tang Sang or the fraud or any of it. She just knew her daughter had somehow found the money for her treatments. "Mama, I need to ask you something. Has anyone strange been in your room today? Any new nurses or doctors you didn't recognize?" Her mother's brow furrowed. "Well, there was a night nurse I hadn't seen before. Asian man, very polite. He said he was covering for Janet. Why?" Michelle's blood ran cold. "What time was this?" "Maybe an hour ago. He checked my IV and left. Michelle, what's wrong?" Before she could answer, her phone buzzed with a new message. Not from the unknown number this time, but from an email address she didn't recognize. The subject line made her stomach drop. "Welcome to Baltimore. Room 847. Come alone. You have 30 minutes. Room 847. This hospital? The person who'd threatened her mother wasn't some distant enemy. They were here, right now, 8 floors above them. "Mama, I need you to listen to me very carefully." Michelle stood up, checking the door, the windows, every shadow. "I'm going to call the nurse and ask them to move you to a different room. Don't let anyone in until I come back. No matter what they say, no matter what uniform they're wearing. Do you understand?" "Michelle, you're scaring me." "I know, but I need you to trust me." She kissed her mother's forehead, memorizing the feeling in case it was the last time. "I love you, Mama. Everything I've done, I did for you." She left before her mother could ask more questions, before she could see the tears streaming down Michelle's face. In the hallway, she flagged down a nurse and explained that her mother needed to be moved immediately for security reasons, flashing the threatening photo on her phone. The nurse's face went pale and she immediately called security, but Michelle couldn't wait for security to handle this. Whoever was in room 847 had made this personal. They'd threatened her mother, and they clearly knew she'd do anything to keep her safe. The elevator ride to the 8th floor felt like descending into hell. Michelle's mind raced through possibilities. Jung Hai-won was in custody. Park Jae-sung was arrested. So who else had been involved? Who else wanted Tang Industries destroyed badly enough to threaten an innocent woman dying of cancer? Room 847 was at the end of a quiet corridor. Michelle approached slowly, every instinct screaming at her to run. But she thought of her mother 8 floors below, thought of the syringe in that photo, thought of what these people were capable of. She knocked once. "Come in, Mrs. Tang." The voice was familiar, but Michelle couldn't place it until she opened the door and saw him sitting in the visitor's chair, perfectly calm, perfectly composed. Lee Jinho, the accountant who was supposed to be dead. Surprised? He smiled, and it was nothing like the nervous, mild-mannered man from the company photos. This smile was cold, calculated, victorious. "You should see your face right now. It's almost worth the 18 months of planning." Michelle's mind was reeling. "You faked your death." "I staged my death. There's a difference. My wife thinks I'm gone. The police think I'm gone. Even your clever husband thinks I'm gone. But here I am, very much alive and very ready to collect what I'm owed. You were working with Young Hai-won. Hai-won was a useful idiot. Bitter, entitled, easy to manipulate. She thought she was the mastermind, thought she'd planned the whole thing. Lee Jinho stood, and Michelle noticed he was blocking the only exit. But she was just another pawn, just like Park Jae-sung, just like you. What do you want? What I've always wanted. What I've spent years working toward while everyone at Tang Industries treated me like furniture. His voice dripped with resentment. I was invisible, the quiet accountant who processed their transactions and balanced their books and made their empire run smoothly. Do you know how many billions passed through my hands? How many deals I facilitated? And my reward was a salary that wouldn't buy me a decent apartment in the city. He pulled out a tablet showing her a banking interface. These are the offshore accounts that hold Tang Industries' liquid assets. $12 billion, give or take. I've been siphoning money for months, but it's not enough. I want it all, and you're going to help me get it. I don't have access to those accounts. No, but your husband does, and he'd do anything to protect you. Lee Jinho stepped closer. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to call Tang Sang. You're going to tell him that if he wants to see you alive, he'll transfer full access to these accounts to me within the hour. Once I have the access codes, I disappear. You go back to your fairy tale marriage. Everyone wins. Except Tang Sang loses everything his family built. His family? Lee Jinho laughed bitterly. You mean the family that made their fortune exploiting people like me? That built their empire on the backs of workers they paid nothing and discarded when convenient. I don't care about his family's legacy. I care about getting what should have been mine. Michelle's phone buzzed in her pocket. She didn't need to check to know it was Tang Sang calling again. Probably frantic, probably tearing the city apart looking for her. And if I refuse? She asked quietly. Lee Jinho's smile vanished. Then the man I have stationed outside your mother's new room will finish what he started. It's amazing what you can buy with $7 million. Fake death certificates, hitmen, loyalty. Your mother has maybe 10 minutes before he walks into her room. Michelle felt the world tilt. This was the choice. Call Tang Sang and betray everything they'd built together, or refuse and watch her mother die. But then she remembered something Tang Sang had said in the warehouse. Every empire needs a secret escape route. He'd been talking about the tunnel under his building, but maybe he'd meant something more. Maybe he'd prepared for exactly this kind of situation. Fine, Michelle said, pulling out her phone. I'll call him. She dialed and Tang Sang answered before the first ring finished. Michelle, where are you? Are you safe? I've been… Tang Sang, listen to me carefully. She looked directly at Lee Jinho as she spoke, making sure he could hear every word. I'm at Baltimore Memorial Hospital, room 847. Lee Jinho is alive. He's demanding access to the offshore accounts, and he has someone threatening my mother. He says you have 1 hour to transfer the access codes, or he kills us both. There was a pause. Then Tang Sang's voice came through, different than she'd ever heard it. Cold, lethal, absolutely calm. Put him on the phone. Lee Jinho took the phone, his confidence wavering slightly at Tang Sang's tone. Mr. Tang, I assume you understand the situation. I understand you made a mistake. Tang Sang's voice was ice. You threatened the wrong person's family. I have your wife. I have leverage. You don't get to make threats. You have my wife in a hospital 8 floors above her mother, in a building with security cameras on every floor, in a room with only one exit, making demands on a phone call that's being traced and recorded as we speak. Tang Sang paused. You're not the mastermind you think you are, Jinho. You're a desperate man who just made his last mistake. Lee Jinho's face went pale. He rushed to the window, looking down at the parking lot, and Michelle saw what he saw. Police cars, unmarked vehicles, men in suits swarming the building. How? Lee Jinho started. You really thought I wouldn't track Michelle's phone? that I wouldn't have people monitoring her mother's hospital, that I wouldn't be prepared for exactly this kind of play. Tang Sang's voice was almost pitying. I've been 3 steps ahead of you since the moment you sent her that first threatening text. Michelle felt hope surge in her chest, but it died when Lee Jinho grabbed her, pulling her against him with one arm around her throat. Then you know I have nothing to lose, Lee Jinho snarled into the phone. Call off your people or I kill her right now. You're in a hospital room, Jinho. You have no weapon. You have no exit. You have nothing. I have her. Lee Jinho's grip tightened on Michelle's throat. I have the woman you love, and unless you... The door burst open, but it wasn't police. It wasn't security. It was Choi Min-ji, flanked by 2 men Michelle had never seen before. Men who moved like trained soldiers, who had Lee Jinho on the ground and zip-tied before Michelle could even process what was happening. Choi Min-ji picked up the phone from where Lee Jinho had dropped it. It's handled, she said to her son. Then to Michelle, Are you hurt? Michelle shook her head, unable to speak. Good. Your mother is safe. She's been moved to a private wing under armed guard. The man Jinho had stationed outside her room is in custody. Choi Min-ji's expression was unreadable. My son called me the moment you turned off your phone. He knew you'd try to handle this alone. He also knew you'd go to your mother first. I don't understand, Michelle managed. How did you know where I'd be? Because Tang Sang knows you. He knew you'd sacrifice everything for your mother. He also knew you'd be smart enough to call him when you had the chance. The older woman's expression softened slightly. He's been terrified for the last 3 hours. He wanted to come himself, but I convinced him that sending me was wiser. Less emotional. More strategic. Lee Jinho was being hauled to his feet by Choi Min-ji's men. He looked at Michelle with pure hatred. You think this is over? You think there aren't others? I wasn't working alone. When they find out, I failed. They'll do nothing, Choi Min-ji interrupted coldly, because you're going to tell us exactly who else was involved. Every name, every account, every detail. And if you cooperate, maybe you'll serve your sentence in a comfortable facility instead of a hole in the ground. As they dragged Lee Jinho away, Michelle's legs finally gave out. She sank into the chair he'd been sitting in, her whole body shaking with delayed shock. Choi Min-ji sat down beside her. My son loves you. I've known this for weeks, even before he admitted it to himself. But I needed to know if you loved him too. If you'd stand by him when things got difficult. If you were strong enough for this life. And, Michelle's voice was barely a whisper, you drove 3 hours through the night to protect your mother. You walked into a trap alone rather than risk Tang Sang's empire. You were willing to sacrifice your own happiness for the people you love. Choi Min-ji handed her a tissue. That's not weakness. That's strength. The kind of strength this family needs. I was going to betray him, Michelle admitted. If it came down to it. If that was the only way to save my mother. I was going to give Lee Jinho those access codes. But you called Tang Sang first. You trusted him to find a solution. You chose to believe in him instead of facing this alone. The older woman stood. That's what partnership means. That's what love means. And it's something I never learned until I lost my husband. She walked to the door, then paused. There's someone downstairs who's been losing his mind waiting to see you. I suggest you go to him before he tears through this hospital looking for you. Michelle didn't need to be told twice. She ran, down 8 floors of stairs because she couldn't wait for the elevator. Through corridors and past startled nurses and around confused visitors. Until she burst through the doors to the main lobby and saw him. Tang Sang was pacing like a caged animal, phone pressed to his ear, his hair dishevelled for the first time since she'd met him. When he saw her, he froze. Then he was running too. They collided in the middle of the lobby, his arms wrapping around her so tightly she could barely breathe. Michelle didn't care. She buried her face in his chest and finally let herself cry. All the fear and tension and terror of the last few hours poured out of her in gasping sobs. "I'm sorry," she kept saying. "I'm so sorry. I should have trusted you. I should have—" "You protected your mother," Tang Sang interrupted, pulling back to cup her face in his hands. "You did exactly what I would have done, what anyone would have done." His thumbs wiped away her tears. "I love you. Do you understand that? I love you more than any empire, any company, any amount of money. When I couldn't find you, when I thought I might lose you." Michelle kissed him, stopping the words before they could shatter her completely. This kiss was different from the ones before. This was desperation and relief and love and promise all tangled together. When they finally broke apart, Tang Sang rested his forehead against hers. "No more secrets. No more running off alone to handle things. We're partners. We face everything together." "Together," Michelle agreed. A doctor approached them, clearing his throat apologetically. "Mrs. Williams? Your mother is asking for you. She's quite worried." Michelle took Tang Sang's hand. "Come meet my mother." "Now? Like this?" He gestured to his disheveled appearance, his unbuttoned collar, his general state of chaos. "She's seen worse." Michelle smiled for what felt like the first time in hours. "Besides, she should meet the man I'm choosing to spend the rest of my life with." They rode the elevator up together, hands intertwined, and for the first time since this nightmare began, Michelle felt like maybe everything would be okay. Her mother's new room was in a private wing, just like Choi Min-ji had said, with an armed guard stationed outside. Inside, her mother was sitting up in bed, looking worried but alert. "Michelle Marie Williams, you better have a good explanation for—" She stopped when she saw Tang Sang. "Oh, Mama, this is Tang Sang, my husband." Michelle took a deep breath. "I know I haven't told you everything, but I'm going to now. All of it." And she did. She told her mother about the contract marriage, about the fraud investigation, about falling in love despite every logical reason not to, about tonight's terror and Tang Sang's rescue and Choi Min-ji's unexpected alliance. Her mother listened to everything without interrupting. When Michelle finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she held out her hand to Tang Sang. "Thank you for keeping my daughters safe." Tang Sang took her hand gently. "With respect, Mrs. Williams, your daughter is the one who kept herself safe, and me, and my entire company. She's the strongest person I've ever met." Her mother smiled. "I know, I raised her." Then to Michelle, "Baby, you should have told me. About all of it. I would have understood. I didn't want you to worry. You were already dealing with so much. I'm your mother. Worrying about you is my job." She squeezed Michelle's hand. "But I can see you're happy. Really happy. That's all I've ever wanted for you." They talked for another hour, until her mother started yawning and the nurse insisted she needed rest. As Michelle and Tang Sang left, her mother called out one last thing. "Tang Sang, take care of my baby." "I will," he promised. "I give you my word." In the hospital parking lot, Tang Sang pulled Michelle close. "Come home with me. The real home. Not the penthouse, not separate residences, just us. Where's home? Wherever you are." He kissed her forehead. "But I have a house in the mountains. Private. Quiet. No one knows about it except me. I bought it years ago as an escape, but I've never brought anyone there. I want you to be the first." Michelle looked up at him, this man who'd turned her life upside down in the best possible way. "Okay, let's go home." They were almost to his car when both their phones buzzed simultaneously. A message from Choi Min-ji sent to both of them. "Lee Jinho is talking. He's given us 4 names, 3 board members and 1 person from outside the company. But there's a problem. The outside person is someone neither of you have met, someone who's been pulling strings from the shadows, someone who has access to information about both of you that should be impossible to obtain. We need to meet. Tomorrow. 8 a.m. My office. This isn't over. Michelle felt Tang Sang tense beside her. 4 board members, that's almost half the board. If they're working together. They could orchestrate a complete takeover, Michelle finished. Remove your mother, install their own CEO, gut the company. Tang Sang's phone buzzed again. This time a photo. A grainy security camera image of a man in a hospital corridor. Not the man who'd been stationed outside Michelle's mother's room. A different man. Watching. Waiting. The timestamp on the photo was from 10 minutes ago. Whoever else was involved in this conspiracy, they were still here. Still watching. And they'd just seen everything that happened tonight. Tang Sang grabbed Michelle's hand. We need to leave. Now. They were running for the car when Michelle's phone rang. Unknown number. Again. Against every instinct, she answered. The voice that came through was distorted, mechanical, just like the first threatening call. But the words were different, more personal, more chilling. Congratulations on surviving round 1, Mrs. Tang. I hope you enjoyed your little victory. Because while you were busy playing detective with Lee Jinho, I was making arrangements. Your mother's cancer treatment? The experimental drug that's been saving her life? I control the supply. Your sister's wedding next month? I own the venue. Her fiancé's company. I'm the majority shareholder. Your art gallery dreams? The building you've been looking at? I bought it this morning. Michelle's blood turned to ice. Who are you? Someone who's been watching you since before you even signed that contract. Someone who knew you'd be perfect for exactly this purpose. You see, I don't want Tang Industries destroyed. I want it transformed. And you, my dear Michelle, are going to help me do it. Whether you want to or not. What do you want? I want you to convince Tang Sang to go through with the merger. The real merger. Not the one with the American investors, but the one being quietly negotiated with my company. I want you to persuade Choi Min-ji to step down as CEO and name Tang Sang as her successor. And I want you to ensure that when the transition happens, I'm named Chief Financial Officer. And if I refuse, then everyone you love suffers. Your mother loses access to her treatment. Your sister's wedding becomes a nightmare. Your dreams of independence evaporate. And Tang Sang? Well, let's just say accidents happen, even to people with private security. The line went dead. Michelle stood frozen in the parking lot, the phone still pressed to her ear, Tang Sang watching her with growing alarm. Michelle? What happened? Who was that? She looked at him, this man she'd fallen in love with against all odds, and realized the nightmare wasn't over. It was just beginning. Because whoever was on the other end of that call didn't want to destroy Tang Industries. They wanted to own it, and they were willing to use everyone Michelle loved as leverage to make it happen. We have a bigger problem than 4 corrupt board members, she said quietly. We have someone who's been orchestrating all of this from the beginning, someone who knows everything about us, everything about my family, everything about the company. Tang Sang's expression turned lethal. Then we find them. We expose them. We end this. It's not that simple. They have leverage. They control. Michelle's voice broke. They control my mother's treatment, my sister's future, everything. Then we protect your family while we hunt them down. Tang Sang pulled her close. Together, remember, we face everything together. But as they drove away from the hospital, Michelle couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking deeper into a trap, that every move they made was exactly what this mysterious puppet master wanted, that the real game was just beginning. And somewhere in the darkness, someone was watching them, waiting, planning their next move. The 60-day contract had become a real marriage, but that marriage was about to be tested in ways neither of them could imagine. Because the person who'd orchestrated everything from the shadows had one more card to play. One more devastating revelation that would change everything Michelle thought she knew about herself, her family, and the empire she'd married into. But that revelation would have to wait for another day, another crisis, Another impossible choice. For now, all Michelle could do was hold on to Tang Sang's hand and hope that their love was strong enough to survive whatever came next. Because in the world they lived in, love wasn't enough. It never was. And as they disappeared into the night, racing toward an uncertain future, neither of them noticed the black sedan following them. Maintaining distance, staying invisible. Inside that sedan, a figure watched them through tinted windows, a slight smile playing at their lips. Phase 2 begins tomorrow, they murmured into their phone. Make sure everything is ready. By the time they figure out who I am, it'll be too late. They hung up and pulled out a photograph. Not a recent photo. An old one. Yellowed with age. A photograph of Michelle's father. The father she'd never met. The father who'd supposedly died before she was born. Standing next to a much younger Choi Min-ji. Both smiling, both very much alive. The figure tucked the photograph back into their jacket and started the car, following Tang Sang and Michelle into the darkness. The real game was just beginning.